The work session of the Board of Education of the Perry Local School District is called to order at 5:30 PM in the Tarbuck Center Conference Room. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Foley,
Yes, here.
Mr. Laydick.
Here.
Mr. Roberts is not yet here. Mrs. Trevster.
Here.
Mr. Welch. Here.
Okay, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22, letter G and 3, I hereby move the board adjourn into executive session to meet with board legal counsel to discuss confidential matters. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Laydick.
Yes.
Mrs. Trevster.
Yes.
Mr. Welch. Yes. Mrs. Foley.
Yes. Thank you. We have roll call after we come out?
No, we're good.
No, we're all here, same people.
I'm ready.
Just we're,
Yes.
we voted to come out of executive.
We're all set.
So we're now on number 3, superintendent's report. Dr. Hanson, when you're ready. That's okay, when you're ready.
Personal acceptance of resignation. The
Personal
board is asked to
personnel.
accept the resignation of the employee listed for the position noted as recommended by the local superintendent building principal. Termination of contract. The board is asked to terminate the contract of the individual noted due to abandonment of position as recommended by the local superintendent. Personnel change of position. The board is asked to accept the change of position indicated for the employee noted as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. Under D, personnel approval appointments certified. The board is asked to approve the employment of the individual listed for the position indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. Under E, personnel approval appointment classified, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the position indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent. Under F, personnel addition of services, the board is asked to authorize the addition of services noted below as recommended by the local superintendent. Under G, personnel approval appointment 21st Century CCLC, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individuals listed for the position and rate of pay indicated as recommended by the principals, grant program manager, assistant superintendent, and local superintendent. H, personnel approval appointment 22-23, non-athletic supplemental. The board is asked to approve the individual listed for the 22-23 non-athletic supplemental noted as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. Under I, personnel approval appointment 22-23 athletic supplemental, the board is asked to approve the employment of the individual listed for the fall 2022-23 athletic supplemental position and rate of pay indicated pending successful completion of required employment paperwork, certification training, and background check as recommended by the local superintendent and athletic director. And J, personnel approval appointment substitutes. The board is asked to approve the individuals noted for the 22-23 daily substitute positions listed as recommended by the local superintendent and assistant superintendent. K, personnel approval appointment student workers. The board is asked to approve the employment of the students listed for the 22-23 position and rate of pay indicated as recommended by the local superintendent and director of communications. Under L, personnel approval appointment volunteer. The board is asked to approve the individual listed as a volunteer for the 22-23 pending successful completion of background check as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. And M, early dismissal for conferences 2022-23. The board is asked to approve the early dismissal for students as noted for parent-teacher conferences as recommended by the local superintendent and building principal. Lunch will not be served on this day for students. This concludes my superintendent's work session report.
Motion,
Second.
discussion.
I had a question on the non-athletic supplemental. We approved that in July for the part of the pen advisor. Do you know why we're approving it again?
What letter?
Thank you. I don't know.
What
The approval
letter?
of non-athletic supplemental.
Do you,
See,
those are
change
two
of position.
positions, would we have done one maybe then?
It's the same person.
Same person, okay.
We did approve the other one at another meeting, I think last month, but then the July one, we had approved.
What
So
letter?
it's,
What letter are we on?
H.
Yeah, that's not C.
H, there's multiple people. There's a repeat of somebody in there.
It's a repeat of Ms. Plisco.
Okay, we'll have
And
to we'll check.
the one in July was corrective action, changing her over, and then we're reapproving it now. Sorry, I just noticed it.
Okay, we'll double check. Thank you.
Good catch.
I mean, you have a correcting entry at the next board meeting, you've taken it off the third time.
We just talked about this.
Yeah, I just remembered, I already covered it. Good.
I just want to bring up the dismissal for the conferences because I'd had a concern because we had just approved the calendar, I think multiple times, like June, July, August, or May, June, July, we had conversations about the calendar.
Yep.
And we approved it and sent it out. And then it's basically being changed again. So just want to have you address that to everyone.
Well, again, and we'll try to get it, we're gonna talk calendar this evening and during our agenda, our list of items, and again, it's been past practice, that's no excuse of why we've always kind of waited till the school year got going. And we were a little later making those decisions because we want them to stick. And so the only concern is that if we pencil them in early and approve them, there may be a likelihood due to some scheduling thing that they have to be adjusted. But we can certainly, I think I have tentative conference dates for the middle school and elementary on the agenda items. The high school does not do early dismissal for their conferences. So we'll put those dates in.
I guess then I have a question. So why do we do early dismissal? So if high school doesn't do it. Like, I don't know. I mean, is there like a huge number of people that come in to like during the day, during the workday to have a conference or?
Yeah, again, and I'd have to look at the data, but it basically is the additional time needed for the amount of folks that attend on those days. So, the 8-hour day, the compensation for, and that's probably why it was scheduled, but we can look at that.
So although a high school teacher may have more students on their
Less
caseload,
people.
less people actually go to those conferences.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was just curious.
that's what I would think.
Yeah.
I know just from signing up for conferences from both the high school, elementary, and middle school, that the high school ones are a lot more open for finding days and times than the elementary.
Unfortunately, that's the case.
Well, I find myself doing the same things.
I do too,
Yeah.
because my kids are becoming adults and making handle it.
I think that's why.
No, it's that way. Yeah, your question, middle school, I don't know especially in the 7th and 8th grade. it's probably
Yeah,
a lot
I just,
less.
I'm speaking kind of my own personal thing. Like, I know that I can never make something during the day. Most of the time, I'll say
Well-
99%. So I didn't know, like, if for these working parents, I know that the slots at night, I don't know what time it goes to. I'm sure that that's like what, sought after. But then you got all these extra ones. I didn't know if there's a huge gap. Like, hey, no one comes in until usually say, 3:30.
Let's check that this year and see what the rate of
Get some
participation is in those early ones at the middle school. We'll check that.
Are we-
With that, oh, go ahead.
Power of the Pen. In, let's see, July 19th, Nancy Plisco was approved as Power of the Pen for 21-22.
Okay, so it's
Because
next
Cindy
year.
Pinter did not probably complete that.
Okay,
And then, so, on the August 16th, we approved one Power of the Pen, and then tonight is another one.
perfect.
Now
Thank
we
you so
got two
much.
for Everybody's.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
And I would venture to say too, in thinking of conferences, just be cognizant of if for some reason ended up having an early dismissal for elementary next year, but not middle, keep in mind then what that does to people who need childcare. And that's probably why it's helpful to have the middle schoolers out at the same time.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking
So-
for both, was like, is there a huge contingency of people that come in between, say, noon and the end of the school day? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or is it,
They probably have all that.
Are we
data
still
because they've
zooming
always been
conferences
scheduled
or are
online.
they?
Parent option, very
Okay.
few are opting for Zoom, but
Okay.
still getting there.
Because I know a lot of people that I knew, like, since they could Zoom, would still just take like a 15-minute break from work and Zoom their kids' conference and then go back to work.
So it's optional, right?
Mhm.
In person or Zoom.
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, is that it? Anything else to discuss now? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Truster,
Yes.
Mr. Welch. Yeah. Mrs. Foley,
Yes,
Mr. Leidy,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts. Yes.
thank you. Chief Financial Officer, report, Dr. or, Mr.
Madam President. First item I have is approval of financial report The board is asked to approve the financial reports from July 2022 as recommended by the chief financial officer. D, approval of closure of supplemental. The board is asked to approve the closure of middle school activity library council account as recommended by the chief financial officer. The funds remaining are to be transferred to an established or newly created student activity. Under C, approval of new budget, the board is asked to approve the creation of a middle school student activity budget account for video club as recommended by the chief financial officer and building principal. D, distribution of funds, the board is asked to approve the distribution of funds of a deposit of $21,400 for the 22-23 eighth grade class trip to Washington DC as recommended by the building principal and chief financial officer. Acceptance of grant funds, the board is asked to accept the 22-23 youth service zone grant from AmeriCorps, $15,000, not
It's an
extra
extra
zero
zero.
there, and to approve the appropriations for such grants in place in Fund 019, 9223 Special Cost Center, as recommended by the building principal, local superintendent, and chief financial officer. The grant was awarded to Area Service Authority, Mark Soder and Allison Miller. Those are the items I have this evening.
Thank you. Do I have any motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Just take the zero out.
It's out.
But I mean, we'll take 150,000. That's good.
That'd be nice.
So the funds for the eighth grade trip. So I know that that's gonna affect, obviously the cost per parent. Questions I've been getting is from parents in eighth grade are, they didn't have their sixth grade trip or anything like that yet. So how does that affect this cost? Should this be significantly less than it normally would be? Since they did not have any money that went towards a prior trip.
So, well, I'm not sure I'm gonna answer your question. Money from these is actually kind of put into a class account.
Oh, right.
So it travels with the kids. So I don't know whether they collected any funds for that or not. So if they did, there's money that's in that class account. This trip to Washington is turning to be very expensive because the cost of buses and transportation, everything that we're seeing in inflation is hitting in all this as well. I know it came up with leadership. I'm not sure they actually had a exact price at the time last week. But I know it's still a moving target because we're close to every time it's either goes below a certain threshold for an extra bus or not extra bus. That's a big cost, rooms and everything else. So I know they're trying to get that done as quickly as possible. I don't know that answers your question. So I don't know whether it's gonna be more expensive or less expensive.
Yeah. I think what I was trying to figure out was, because I'm just trying to understand. So I know that there's the money follows that students and advice and stuff. So I didn't know if, since there was no money, say, spent,
Yeah, I just don't know what was in there,
Okay.
how much they collected for that prior trip. So it's hard to give an answer.
I don't think they collected. I think
I'm
Justin's
just
talking
like
about just pure
fundraisers.
fundraising,
Yeah,
like
yes.
what we have in their account currently.
Thank
Is it where it needs to be, or is it higher or lower than we would expect? Because nothing came out for the sixth grade
Nothing was spent.
camp trip.
Yeah, I could ask Bob that. I'm not sure.
I also think we might have missed a year of fundraising though too, so that might have an impact on that, because I don't think we fundraised for 1 year.
I feel like we do every year.
Yeah, I think we missed 1 year. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't remember doing
That's
it.
true.
They sell.
Yeah, well, the COVID started in March, so they missed their camping trip at the end of that year, but I don't know that we fundraised in the following fall.
Or the fall before that even.
I don't know, so it might be impacted by that.
Yeah, I just have to ask Bob and look at the balance of those accounts. The sixth grade, I mean, the other trips are significantly cheaper compared to that Washington trip.
But everything they've put in, they've never had a trip to
Sure.
pull out of it, so it should be, hopefully, where it needs to be.
We'll look into that.
Fundraiser, that was the word I couldn't think of at the moment, and I'm glad you said, 'cause I was trying to, it just wasn't coming.
All those pretzels, you couldn't think of fundraiser?
Oh gosh, those pretzels.
Oh, I should've
They're
bought
so
my box.
good.
Right, they're
I
delicious.
see that. I
Everyone
never-
should buy them. Everyone buy them.
Let's give them out at Easter. They'll be-
Halloween.
I still have,
Halloween.
I still have pretzels sitting there from last year.
They're still good. Like a tweet.
They're fine. They're
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Welch? Yes. Mrs. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Leidy?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Trustees?
Yes.
You didn't remember to mark Mr. Roberts.
Yes, I did.
Work session items. So in front of us, I see a calendar. I see two calendars.
Yeah.
I see an A and a B.
Yeah, we had talked about getting next year's approved earlier rather than later. You know, we've been through a number of years of committees and heard discussions from many different agendas. So I think we've pretty much vetted through what we can do in it for the calendar. There's 188 days, and we have to get them on here somehow. And so the B calendar pretty much mirrors what we've done this year, with a little bit of movement in our PD days possibly. We were able to put the half-day parent-teacher conferences on here as well for next year. And then, you know, the A calendar simply basically pushes it back and starts it on that, instead of doing the phase in on the Thursday and Friday, you begin the phase in on Monday, the 21st of August. Gives you, you know, that one additional weekend. But then it also, you know, pushes everything back a little bit. And then it also puts the semesters farther out of balance. I think we're within 6 days on the B calendar of being balanced. I think it goes 86, 87, 86 and 93 versus the 85, 95, which is obviously, it's a high school thing, because we're, you know, our semesters, we change courses at the turn. And we've always banked on majority of snow days and those calamity days happen second semester. So, and with testing second semester, that's why we allow that. We kind of gave up on balancing our semesters because things happen anyway. That typically takes some days here and there. So that's it. These are just drafts for you to kind of look and ask any questions or add some suggestions of what, you know, again, we did put the January 2nd PD day back in there at the beginning of the semester. I know this school year we will not be doing that on that day. So, you know, bring your attention to that. The idea of starting a new semester and getting those, you know, the data and the pieces that we want to go over, and Dr. Malchowski can probably speak to more of that or any other PD days. We did front load the A calendar with 3 PD days right at the beginning of school year. Anything else that you see that
So A calendar, what I don't like, that makes absolutely no sense to me, is to come back after Memorial Day for a half a day.
Yeah, and that breaks up the final exam schedule too. You're gonna have your holiday weekend, and your kids can take 1 exam and, you know, or 2 exams, and then come back and take the finals. I get it, 188 days.
I know, it's just
Not
that
gonna-
one, I mean, it
188
looks
days
like,
for staff, not students,
Well, 180 days for students.
Yeah.
right? Okay, when you're saying 188,
180,
I'm just
well, but
asking.
you
what
gotta
you're
get
referring to.
188 days in here, right? It's 180
yeah,
for kids. You know, working with the teachers, we've tried to extend that winter break. We've shut that down to minimum time off. Now, I mean, if you look at when winter break is, you know, a couple years back, we extended that into January, and then that was met with some criticism. So we've scaled that back now. And so there's not a big winter break. So if you look, you know, I don't know what you want to, you know, and obviously we don't want to start any earlier in August. We're always trying to push that back. So it's kind of that Jello thing, you know, squeeze it, push it. It's got to go somewhere. So,
so the choices in these calendars are we either start school on a Monday with a full week with a phase in, and finish a half a day at the end of the year after Memorial Day, or we go in on a Thursday, Friday again with the phase in, and then we're finished before Memorial Day.
now, this is just going from the patterns of the past. You know, I'm
No, but I
not,
mean, we get complaints about both, so I'm just trying to, like, this is why we are stuck in these situations with these
I
complaints.
just
because
want
there's
to
so
give you a
many
point of
days.
reference for you guys to look at.
Yeah.
There's nothing really behind it other than, you know, and we did need to bring it up with our teachers group. And they bring up the same things. exactly doesn't make sense. We're really gonna come in a day after Memorial Day
Yeah.
for finals and that. I say the carnival can happen any day. It's still the last day of school, you know, at the elementary and those things, but, you know, again, calendar B is much more balanced. I like the Thursday, Friday, phase in, because that's only half the kids too, so you're really only going one day that week.
Are the
Right here.
I actually
teachers,
got a
High
lot of
school.
complaints from parents about that.
do the teachers
Phase
in
in, we
About
love it.
going
I
one
mean,
day.
people love it on
About-
campus.
About going one day in the week and then being done.
Right.
So
Well,
starting on
and-
a Friday, they thought was ridiculous. I'm
and,
just letting you know what
you know,
was
when-
told to me.
Good news is 60% of our kids have been on campus since August 1st. So we're at 2 football games in, you know, I mean,
are
so,
the teachers in the, I know elementary teachers I've heard are like very happy with the phase in and it benefits them. Is the middle school finding it beneficial also?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, I got more, I've gotten more compliments and comments and thank yous and gratitude
I mean,
for allowing us to have that partial day, especially for kids transitioning into buildings. That 5th grade, those 5th graders got a relaxed atmosphere. They were by themselves in their locker areas. I mean, it was just took a little air out of the balloon for those first couple days, and it makes for a nice
I
start.
think phasing is great. I
Yeah, as
agree
a-
with that.
yeah, for the kids, I think
100%.
it's good for them to get connected with the teachers, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I think
they'll be
it's-
like, absolutely, I agree with phasing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't know if it should start on a Friday.
Thursday and Friday.
Is-
Well, then you get out
That's
before
only
Memorial Day.
But
only
is
one
there-
group. starting
Is
on
there
Friday.
any chance, and I'm just throwing this out there, of doing the Monday start, but taking that January 2nd day and taking away the day after Memorial Day?
You gotta plug the PD day in, so the teachers would then
At the
be
end of the
doing
day?
PD days sometime. You gotta put that yellow box in there somewhere
I think
Yeah.
you're saying at the end of
The end of the
the
year.
year.
on the, so you're gonna flip flop those.
Well, just moving the second, I think what you're saying is that the second to
Do we have to
May
have kids at all the 28th?
28th.
Why do they have to come in for a half day? Why do the kids have to come in for a half day on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, Memorial Day?
Well, it's negotiated. I mean, you know, this is our contractual
But-
agreements. So there, they don't have to come in, but that's gonna be instructional. You've gotta have 180 instructional days unless, you know, we can reduce them. Obviously, you're gonna pay the teachers the same. I mean, whatever you wanna do, we have enough hours to comply with what we need to comply with, but I mean, unless,
We could get creative.
we're just
about that.
following the contract. And those are days that have to be in there. The half days just appeared a couple of years ago with our latest negotiated agreement on those last days. That was something.
Okay,
that
then,
we-
yeah, don't do half day on the 22nd of December and
Well, by the end, the last day of the semester, by contract, will be a half day for teachers and students. It's negotiated, so.
So even if we took that day away, we'd have to make the day before the half day.
The last day of the semester, whatever day you pick,
It
is
has
gonna
to
be
be
a
a
half day. Now, the yellow blocks can go anywhere in the calendar you want. them to
Right.
go.
Where does the logic behind the half day, where did that stem from?
Well, truthfully, I speculate that once we started doing semesterized calendars at the high school and modeling college, and we have finals week, that the last block of the day is makeups for our kids. And it was perceived as that the high school folks are always getting a half day at the end of the semester to do their work. And for equity purposes, I think the teachers union wanted to get those for all their teachers, to have that little half part of the day to do their work. That's my speculation. But it's one of those things that came to the table and we were willing to.
and maybe now we rethink it because they got their half at the beginning of the year when they only had half their students. So, right, it's
Yeah,
kind of
That's
a.
true.
But that's going back to the contract.
If you want to
Well,
open,
I'm
it,
just
we
saying,
can
it's
open
just,
it.
it's
We
just a
can-
discussion point
Right.
though, right?
We can open the contract and renegotiate, lose up for, get back to the table. I mean,
I'm just saying, if we're talking halves, it's just.
I mean, I
we're
don't
gonna
think they
change
wanna
that
come
into
back
it.
for the half day after Memorial Day any more than
No,
parents wanna send their
parents,
kids back for half
right.
day after.
No.
you know,
Right.
teachers come back a lot of days.
Well,
If
no,
they're
but
doing
I
their
mean,
job,
like,
I mean,
yeah,
they go beyond, you know,
Right.
they go beyond, well, some don't, but most, I mean, that half day is not gonna be enough
yeah.
to get they've gotta close up shop. They got
Right.
all these things they do. They-
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
like
you
I'm,
know,
trust me,
it's-
I know teachers working on
so-
the calendar.
Right, so
Right.
they
think
do
that's a
plenty,
concern.
they put in their time.
I think it's parents thinking their kids will be counted absent if they don't come half a day the day after
Well, they-
Memorial Day.
I mean, although to your question, I think when you asked if the January 2nd date, right, the nice little yellow highlighted January 2nd, if that got switched and put on the 28th,
But we still have to give them a half day then on the
well, then you
28th.
get half day on a Friday,
You
and
can,
then you're done before the holiday.
you can flip it.
You don't have to give
We're
them a
heading
half
off,
day on the
we're
24th.
heading off to our
This is
summer
where it goes.
vacation.
Yeah, because
You don't have to.
And
give
the
them
day
half day on the
before we
24th.
leave, we're gonna
the
do
last day of the
professional development.
semester.
We're gonna have an engaged audience that day.
You have to give them
On
that,
a Friday, took a Monday.
but you still
Well,
have to
yeah,
give
it
them a
would make
half
more
a
sense.
day.
You have to give them a half
Well,
day
you
on
can give
that
them that, you
Friday.
can end the semester whenever you want.
Right, but it's a half day. The last day of the semester is always a half day.
Even if you end the day early and they don't have to work a whole day?
Right.
Well, there's
I guess I don't understand the logic there.
Of what?
The teachers could work the 28th and come in a half day. Right?
What day you making the final?
I'm just saying,
day of
we're
the
just saying,
semester?
don't make the kids come in on the 28th.
Let's say you made it the 24th.
Yeah.
May 24th.
Or let the 28th be makeups, if kids. who have
What,
to
you're
come in
looking
and make
at the
stuff
B
up or-
calendar.
And on the B calendar, if we, well, no,
No, it's the A
A
calendar.
calendar with the 28th as the off day. So you'd have 94 days in the second semester, still, or, yeah, 90, it'd still be 95 days, because you're swapping days. And 85 in the first semester.
Mhm.
As opposed to 87 and 93.
January 2nd.
No school on January 2nd, or school
Just
on
full
January
instruction,
2nd.
like
Like
school.
all, like full day of school on
Gotcha.
January
Okay.
2nd.
And then you're talking about making the 28th a PD day. And so the 24th would be a half day.
And I don't know, because I am not in their shoes, but is a PD day at the end of the year valuable? Is there any valuable PD day you can do at the end of the
I've
year?
never done it on my decade or 11 years here. I
I
know
don't, I've never had a
Riverside
professional-
does it.
So
It's
usually
usually-
I hear
it's a
from-
closing up shop
I
day.
hear from them. Well, is it closing up shop or is it PD day?
professional
Well,
development.
so that pink day at the end is the teacher work day at the end. That's kind of closing.
The
it up.
prep day.
We actually did, years ago, we had a PD day at the end of the year with that. And there wasn't a whole lot of value to it. The year's over, you're not
Yeah.
using any,
And apply your learning. to
right,
everything.
so it's,
So-
teachers didn't want to be there for PD when the students were done. They wanted to get their grades, their reports and everything else. And so
And the
that's
problem
why,
with, doing them the first week, where's teachers'
Getting
minds?
ready for the kids.
They're not,
Right.
so we're putting 3 in the front. Those aren't the best times.
actually, years ago, they were all in front.
Yeah, we used to come 10
It's
days.
just too much because
What
they've
if-
got,
So if we put 3 in the front and 1 at the very last day, that's really effectively wasting PD days, right?
well, it's not optimal. I don't think they're ever a waste.
Right, no, I
They're
don't
just
mean
not,
that.
the more opportune time is when you take a couple weeks and then you have a PD day where they get themselves settled. And now let's take some time to learn and apply some things immediately to the classroom. We're still fresh. I think those are the optimal times to have them. It doesn't work real well with the calendar. If you're trying to squeeze days,
Right.
that's the difference. But the best time is having during the school year, for sure.
Well, what if you did a PD day? I mean, I would think that the further we could push the start back, like even by a day or two, I'd rather have a day in August than, day off in January necessarily. I mean, if you take a PD day, you take one of those PD days away at the beginning of the year and move it to January 3rd,
I mean,
Um,
I would think by the end of the year, like if you ask a teacher by the end of the year, would you rather have this last day off or would you rather have the day
True, so
after?
true.
Just, but I mean, just, I don't know.
Or get over the idea of getting done by Memorial Day and go that whole week.
Start after Labor Day, go until,
Yeah, okay.
let's do it.
It's, yeah, talk to the state on that one. We
I
went
mean-
over round and round about that.
What if you didn't touch any of the PD days on here and you just said, you amend the contract to say that they're going to go the whole day on calendar A, that their last day would be the 24th of May for the staff with students, but that they wouldn't have to come in on a half day, the 28th. Or they wouldn't have to come in the whole day, the 29th, let's put it that way. If they thought they could get out one day earlier, would they be willing to do that whole day, the 24th?
Instead of. doing
Instead of a half day, because that's really where it's messed up. That's the mess up here, is we have to plug in a half a day of school with kids. Because we're not ending a half day on the 24th, so we're looking for a place to put it, so it was put on Tuesday after Memorial Day. I think community is gonna say, where the heck did you guys come up with this?
Well, especially when
I
you
mean,
give them.
They did
the-
this year, because we had one day, a full day.
And I've had the community in here 25 strong,
I know,
and I've watched it ricochet around all over the place and go nowhere. So let's talk. I mean, I'm here. I have no stake in, I have zero stake in this game other than I want to help teachers
all right, well,
and, and help kids. I mean, that's really,
my other question I
the
had
community,
was,
I hear you, but it's really our district and we're trying to teach kids and try to build a system that's gonna, do well by both of them. I think the elementary kids love the last half day of school. I mean, it's fun, right? I mean, maybe.
no matter when the last half day is, it's fun, they're gonna love it.
Half
There's
day.
always a half last day.
Right.
Or a full day.
Right.
The other question I guess I had is, isn't the history of the district to do a multi-year calendar? Because we did, I mean, as far as I know, the last 6 years.
Right, I've always
they
done
were
a
in
3-year, I've
threes.
done 3-year.
That's what I mean. So
Would you
This is
like me to
just-
come back with 3?
I don't know. I'm asking that question
I'm
for
happy to do
discussion.
that.
Yeah.
So.
I was just, I don't know why it started. I don't
But
know.
don't they get modified then?
They do.
Because yeah.
I'm not saying do
I
it.
think it's just hard to, when you're
It's
just trying to plan 3 years out and then
Yeah.
modifying then you gotta make sure everybody has the latest version.
I don't want to go that direction. I'm asking as a,
We always
like,
have.
Yeah.
get shut down here. I'm just asking why that was the way it was and why are we switching it to 1 year at a time now?
I think,
I think it's better to do 1 year at a time because it changes 18 times.
again, from community, we heard, that we plan our vacations 3 years in advance. We have to rent the
Oh, really?
areas. We have to, yeah,
Wow.
that's really
I
what
didn't
we
know you
heard.
could
Yeah.
book
And
anything 3 years in advance.
But, the longer, when we know, we know.
But we,
When's Christmas break gonna be? Oops, when's winter break gonna be, right? And so we plan our stuff around that.
we've been pretty consistent though with, like, in
Yeah.
the last 3 years, we've kept the last week of March is
When we-
spring break.
Yeah, that helped.
That was great.
Yeah.
So now people
Not
know
following
to
Easter.
expect
Yes,
that.
Right.
that helped.
It helped.
So if we understand that expectation, then people can pretty much
Right.
plan without having a calendar in front of them.
And to get as late in August start as we could, we
Correct.
pushed right up against, 22nd, 23rd, which caused some heartache.
When does CCP classes start at Lakeland? Do we know that? I know that always.
It
comes up
just started
too.
last week.
That
So they're
came up too
late.
Recently.
So
They're late.
whenever
They're
we
late.
start,
Yeah,
it's
they're
it's not like we're gonna have kids having to go to CCP but not have school open.
Right. And then, not that this is.
Auburn
but
starts before us. a
Testing
little
window for high school can go into January.
Okay.
Not that that's ideal.
bit. And testing in the spring is still early. Which,
Figure that out.
yeah, that's the other piece why again, every common sense tells us to start early in August. We battle and resist that at any way we can.
So spring break is always the last week in March.
Right now it
Right
is.
now.
We used to
Except
follow
this year,
Easter
right?
until a couple years ago. Well, yeah, 1 year we stuck in it because Good Friday matched up. And so we did do it a little week
It's
earlier.
not
this-
that way this year.
Yeah, because of the way Good Friday fell. We
So
were
is-
able to save a day.
Was there a difference? Like, I'm talking like leading into Easter or coming out of Easter? Was there like a major difference besides potentially
We save
weather?
one day because we don't have to use, if we go in or out of Easter, then we save one day because we don't have to do the day before or the day after Easter
Yeah.
weekend, right?
True.
That's right?
Certain
Yeah.
Christian holidays. I'm
Yeah,
surprised we still get them.
a lot of it was just how late.
We saved a
Easter would
day.
Fall sometime.
Yeah,
You didn't want to have, you just didn't want to wait that long for.
Okay,
because we have to do the day before and the day after Easter weekend. The
So
Good
you-
Friday and Easter Monday.
Yeah.
So if we had spring break connected to it, we saved one of those days.
Like 2024, Easter's on March 31st. So
So we've been,
Sometimes it comes into play. falls.
Yeah,
Other
So
times
that
it
time it's gonna,
I was
It's
just curious if
been
you're giving, I was just curious because you're giving like both days off, so I didn't know if you're saving a day, if it's like after Easter. How that works, you know what I'm saying? Or am I not saying it right? Like, I know we're off Good Friday, and it says the day after Easter is also off.
Mhm.
So then if you had Good Friday off, and then you had spring break that day, starting the day after Easter, are you saving a day?
You
Because
would
you
not
have to
use that
have that.
Monday.
You can use the Monday. Yeah, that's one of the places you can tweak, for sure.
I don't know, I like the consistent week where everyone knows when it is and can plan and you don't have to worry about when,
I think that's better.
yeah, I agree.
Well, I was just curious, I don't know if that's, I'm just looking for day savings to everyone's calendar happiness in the community.
The day.
Let's face it, if everyone had it, they'd want to start in Labor Day because August weather is nicer than June's. So good luck.
But we can't because the spring testing
Good
is in early May and April, so there's not enough days. of that.
Your culminating tests are in May.
So your kids aren't prepared for their state testing, the stuff they need to do, end of course exams.
Probably more so high school.
Yeah.
And we've lobbied for that, to get that pushed,
Mhm.
and we're not getting, we certainly brought it to their attention at the state level. Now they blame it on the federal level because they have to comply with the June 15th deadline
Mhm.
of having these back, so it hasn't gone very far, but Representative Calendar and I are discussing it, but I don't see it changing. That's soon.
Mark, you need to call Jamie. Push it. All right, are we, so what's the plan from here?
I'm
Eventually
just
to
gonna
vote
bring
on one?
you know what, I'll push this into one and throw it out Friday, not this Friday, but when's our next board meeting? I'll get it out to you guys and you can, and then by next board meeting, have a recommendation.
Yeah.
And we could go over it again, like we did last year.
100 times until we finally beat it to death.
Yeah, I just think.
The thing
Depending on
is-
the weather that day, we'll.
People don't understand like how much we're confined, like, it's not like we just don't pick days, like, I don't want to go Thursday, Friday, people don't like that, but I also don't want to go one day after, and you can't do everything, so we have to pick.
Yeah, I like the starting 21st, I think it's nice. If
Yeah.
It's later in the month, I think that's great, but yeah.
And the
if you
kids will
kinda-
be like dragging by the end of the week, because going back to school for a full week, the
Yeah.
first week is tough on them too.
Oh, that's hard.
But
Yeah.
They get
break
the
and
phase,
phase
the
it, so-
younger
Yeah.
kids get the phase, which is better. But then you're right, you're breaking finals in half.
Yeah. You just, it's not hard, it's not easy decisions.
All right, are we ready to move on to the
Mhm.
calendar? Dress code policy, I think we addressed it. Was there more that we needed to discuss
So
on
what?
that? We wanted to tighten up more things on we're on the work session items on the dress code? Right? Or did you?
Well, as far as, we did take some action earlier in we started the first couple days and then we did take, Todd, we put out a notice saying, hey, it's time to buckle down a little bit and I think we've made some moves to address that. The anomaly cases, we still have to work through. And I think, I'm gonna ask that we maybe pull them to a side and see where that's at. If we can get them back to the middle a little bit.
I think it's important to take note again, I'm going to reiterate what I keep saying about our practice and moving forward as she mentioned here tonight.
And again, policy is not personal, but it becomes personal when you enact it. So there are kids at the other end of this that we care about and that we're going to work through and then try to do what's best, both for the district to be consistent in our practices, but also we believe in personalization and hearing the individual as well. So, we're going to try to find that happy middle as best we can. There's no easy. Yeah, I wish I could make it black and white. But I could, but it just.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the dress code, concerns they want to bring up?
That was under, oh yeah.
It's on our work
see number
session item too.
I mean. So
Nobody has anything?
I think I haven't heard any complaints the last week or so. I think the first couple of days we had some adjustments to do. It's a general rule, right?
Mhm.
All right. nothing else, then I'll go to the weight equipment that was being stored out in the hallway. Is there any updates on that? or-
Yeah, so we have, with the new purchase last year, we bought the new weight equipment. We kind of redid it, moved the weight room down. And now we have some excess equipment from equipment that was bought about, I think it was 2012 or 13 was the dates. And they had bought kind of 2 of each type of machine. Doesn't fit in the area that we now have with new equipment. TJ wants to get rid of it. We do have to follow certain regulations. He's gotten some quotes, and the quotes are significantly less than what probably is the true value. So I, and talking to TJ, we really should go through a formal process on this. And I think I was talking to Tippy, and Tippy said, why don't we just do a kind of like just a generalized notification of public sale for our community. We'll label each item. They can place bids on each item. And then once we go through that process, like the pieces we don't get bids on, then we're free to dispose of it. But items that we do get bids on, we open it and we sell to the highest bidder with it. We can put minimum monitor on each piece or not, depending on what we want to do. And then they essentially take it as is. But I know TJ wants to get out of the hallway.
So is the fire marshal.
So the fire marshal's right, we got sight on that. So if we could, and again, I run this by the board because that's the process starts with the board. And so with your approval, I'd like to kind of just start a process where we would begin that. We would start thinking that the process, then on the next meeting, we would approve any, so we'd have the date and like a day prior to the next board meeting. And then we'd have accept the bids, accept the regional items and dispose of the rest.
So we're looking at about a 2-month process for this.
I'm talking about a 2-week process.
No, because I mean, if we're gonna wait till the next board meeting, that's another 2 weeks away, and then if there's a bidding, how long is the bidding gonna be open for?
Oh, we can advertise it and we can
Right.
post it, we can put it on our page, let people.
So when do you want this to be done by, like, and where are we
Next board
putting
meeting.
it, okay, like sold and done and?
Yep.
And where are we putting the stuff in the meantime? Is it just
Oh, yeah,
sitting
we
there?
have that label.
How about ping pong
I'll actually look at the legal process and make sure we can do it that quickly.
Okay,
I like to do it quickly, I think TJ wants it out. But if we could do it, starting tomorrow, where we'll put a number on everything, we'll put a description of each piece, we have it already, of each piece on the website, we'll send it out, we'll blast it out.
So it's a public auction. How many pieces do we have? Roughly.
There's like 15 or so.
Okay.
and then who's responsible for moving it? We're not gonna have people come in and like carry this stuff out.
We can have our main firm move it outside, and people have to take it as is off the property. We're not gonna be responsible for.
So we have
Delivery.
a home game this Friday. It would be great if there was a way to advertise it at the football game.
Okay.
Like if there was a couple pages of pictures of the items and people could leave through it or something, I don't know, or hang.
Are you gonna set
Put
minimums?
them all on the track and you guys have
Well,
to.
it's not something you guys, look, I don't have any, I don't have any knowledge of what that value of that stuff is.
What were the
but-
bids to get rid of them?
But these things were a couple $1,000s a piece. I mean, they range in price, but, so if you put a minimum on it and nobody wants to bid above the minimum, then you get zero.
Well, I understand. I was just wondering though, versus what, I think that, the numbers were, I don't want to come under one of the numbers that, were given already by another company.
6,000
Well,
to carry it all
the
out.
board has a right to reject any and all bids at any point. So you don't have to put a minimum on, you could actually just reject it, should it be too low.
Do we think it's better to take the $6,000 offer from the company? Would they come and pick it up and all the pieces are going for that
Well,
price?
so
Or do you
that's,
think
I don't
can
think
get
we
more?
can do, because we don't know the value.
Oh,
You
so
have
we
to go
need
through a legal process.
Okay.
Now you can do a legal process one at a time or as a group purchase. It would take probably a lot of local community members out to be it all together. There's no one in the community.
I just wonder if we really advertised it out there that maybe there's a gym that would even want to
There
buy.
might be a gym, there might be
equipment.
another school district.
Right, might be another district that doesn't have equipment that's that nice.
I think Mentor was actually just selling stuff online from one of the schools or something out that way. Recently I saw an auction for equipment out that way, so.
So we can't just sell it to one of the companies because we don't know the value on it, but if
So the
people
law-
bid
the
on
law-
it, we don't have to.
The law says is that if it has a value of $10,000 or more, you have to go through a formal process.
Okay.
And it's either a public auction, or a sealed bid.
Is that a single piece of equipment for 10,000?
Well, it was bought as a lot. So I don't know,
I'd add up what we paid.
well, if you add up what we paid, it was probably $50,000.
Okay, so then you take each piece of equipment and say, we paid $10,000 for this, and if somebody were gonna offer us 60,000 or 6,000 for all of it, this is what the percentage of that piece of equipment would cost, and that would be the minimum that we would take for a bid.
And what if you don't get the minimum?
Then
In
we,
the auction?
Then we've done the auction and then we could sell it privately, right? After you've done the auction, we could sell it
So
to one of
the
those
well,
companies
combination
that.
of all the bids have to equal 6,000 or above, or we're not doing any of it.
no, I would say per piece of equipment. So if we paid 50,000 and this one costs this much, multiply that percentage by the 6,000 offer.
Yeah, well, we actually know what each piece, what we pay for each piece.
Right. So you,
And we could say that, get a minimum price of 25% of purchase price. The minimum.
Is the company that's offering the $6,000, they're only saying it's all or none, right?
Right now, that's what,
okay.
see, that's
So
what
that's the
TJ did, he
problem.
said, hey, what will you give us for all this? And we had one person say, hey, you know what? We'll charge you to haul it away. And so,
Yeah, it's not.
and see, that's, but without going through a process where we know what that value is, to either take nothing for it or to pay somebody, we're doing a disservice to our community.
No, but if someone's paying us and that's guaranteed money that we don't have
Well, they're paying us,
pay people to deal with.
but if the value is truly over 10,000, and I don't know that, then we have to go through the process. We can't just do it and them saying we'll give you 6. And that's the part that I'm worried about is somebody gave us 6 for something that we paid 40 for or 50 for, and it might have a value of more than 10. Now, if at a public auction, a public sale, we get $10, it was at least put out through the formal process. I don't really care what we get. I just want to do the formal process and do it the right way. The truth is, it doesn't have a whole lot of value to us because it's sitting in a hall.
Right, no, it's more in the way than anything else
Yes.
right now.
It's more of a hazard.
But there is a value because we paid something for it. Not every piece is at end of useful life.
Right, no,
And
I'm just
therefore, there's-
thinking, the amount that we pay people to deal with all this is probably, when you.
It's
deduct
never
that
worth, you're
from-
right, it's never worth it.
Right,
But there's still a process under the law.
so there's no concept of depreciation with the real value
Well, there is, I just don't know what that is for this type
for
of
10-year-old equipment though.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean,
Negligible.
does it depreciate after 10 years worth nothing?
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
or does it have a 20-year useful life and that 50,000 worth 25,000? And I have no idea.
Remember the price hikes on that equipment during COVID?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, and
You couldn't
actually,
even buy it, you couldn't buy
But
it.
now-
Dumbbell.
now Peloton
You're
creates
right.
all a bike.
right.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so you're going to.
I'd
start
like
that
to,
process.
with your permission, go through the process and then have you guys, again, hopefully the next meeting, but whatever the law provides.
Okay.
Depending on advertising dates and everything else on the law, approve any and all bids at that date, and then we'll distribute afterwards. And that's how we would advertise it. The board will approve the highest bid at for each piece at the 20th meeting.
I just don't want it to end up costing us money because we're getting dinged by the fire marshal or have to pay people. for their
Well,
equipment.
it won't cost us money because anytime that I put in or TJ puts in,
It could cost us to dispose of it if nobody takes it.
well, again, we have an offer out there,
Okay.
so it shouldn't cost us.
So we could scrap it.
Okay.
Yeah, start with something else. So we will start with identifying each piece and putting something out in local communications around the community.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if we are going to do that, we do our due diligence and letting people know.
Yeah.
For sure. Maximize the potential there. done reading at number 3.
Mhm.
Number 4. Property, buildings, fields, etc. Anyone have any questions or concerns? I mean, I think these things have been raised about who takes care of what. We had some issues on our fields this spring and stuff was moved and put on things. We know that that's our property.
Mhm.
But the buildings are ours. We will do what we need to do to see fit to make sure our buildings are maintained and properly cared for.
Well, I think the point is, and going back to the fields, that the properties belong to the Board of Education. Community via the Board of Education, not individuals such as coaches, staff members, or anything else
Right.
who have a classroom, who have a space.
Right.
It doesn't belong to them, it belongs to the community and the board.
Right.
And we really custodians of it. And so it has to be maintained in such a manner that acceptable to the board of education.
Right.
Nobody can say, hey, you know, you can't mow that field, I don't like mow that field. However it goes.
Right.
Yeah, so not a whole lot, just I think it was Betty Jo updated a little bit. So we had a closing date of last week. Close the house on Utah Court. There is a septic issue. I think the latest is that it's an aerator type thing, and they're trying to get it fixed. So we have a price. We have a contract to sell it. The closing date now, I think they're talking like September 13th and 15th, somewhere there, but this has to be resolved before we can sell it.
Yeah, today's update is that the septic is still an issue, but now they're looking at maybe an electrical issue with the pump aerator. And the appraisal on the Maple Avenue is complete. It's still waiting on the write-up.
Yeah, so that's another, so that's different issue. That the Utah Court, we're still looking to get finalized with the septic. We're looking at another property for the purchase, staying within the parameters that the board had established on the price. But we wanted to get an appraisal before we take place date and a bid on it. And appraisal report should be coming in the next day or so. He said it's complete, but we don't have the rate up yet. So that's kind of where we're at on that.
The holiday might have put that off. I don't know, but we should get that soon.
And that's on Maple Street.
Yes.
I have something to add.
Yes.
We're already seeing a good number of teachers out with COVID. We're expecting they're gonna have multiple rounds this year. I know we've had staffing issues. Questions about policy, what's the policy for kids staying out of the classroom? Is it a free for all now? Is it, I guess I just want to revisit it. What are you hearing and what about the kids who are showing up positive being sent home and what's their return? Is it a suggestion? Is it a mandate? We ask them for masks. It seems kind of fluid right now. We got over the hump, but now it feels like we're back into it again.
Yeah, there's no mandate for testing at any point in time. Right. So you're dealing with symptomatic folks. If you choose to test and you test positive, you are to isolate for 5 days from the time of the symptoms began. And then if your symptoms have gotten better, you can come back, and it's recommended that you mask for additional 5 days, not required. That's where we're at. And so, and so it is a kind of it's fluid. We have seen, I think you're right. I think we will see a number of folks out with COVID. We've put another posting out for a designated for assignment daily sub that we want to add to the books. We went from 6 to 1. Now we're going to try to go up to 2 and see if we can hold serve there and go forward. But
you're right, our staff numbers are higher than any previous year right now.
Yeah. And then what, at some point, I would think the union is going to say, look, we've got people out 2-3 weeks. What do we do about that? Like have that kind of time. So, you know, I think we're gonna have to, we need to be prepared to deal with that at some point, because,
Yeah,
you know, people are gonna get sick.
it'll impact us more towards the later end of the year because everyone gets fronted those 15 days. So everyone has at least that now. But you're right, they'll run short quickly.
What do you mean, Betty Jo, when you just said, their
Our
staff is
our
higher?
teacher attendance at predominantly middle and high, not high, middle and elementary is higher right now than. it
The
was.
Absenteeism.
absence, you mean, not,
Yes.
okay, not attendance.
And it's still the roughest days are always Fridays.
Is it, are we
Monday.
counting
Right, yeah,
long terms
but
in there,
but
or
I
are we just counting
know
like the daily?
extended COVID cases.
Teachers that are not on long terms, yeah, teachers out for.
And it's higher right now than normal?
Mhm, mhm. This year, we've had more. And
You know, we-
everyone goes out for 5 days when they go out, so.
Now, that's if they test positive. They can come back sooner if they're up to it. But what we're finding is there's some linger in this. I mean, you know, they're either that, I mean, we've had a few come back this week or today, and you know, they're struggling a little bit, but they're here. So. Yeah, I don't have an answer.
What are we finding with substitute as far as daily?
It's tight. I'm starting to see our 5 a.m. phone calls come back. It's tight, but we're managing with coverage. I don't know if we didn't have that language in the contract for coverage, I don't know what we could do. But our
So that's what's
teachers
covered.
are giving up their planning periods and we're piecing that together. We did bring on tonight even more subs, and out of the subs that I've interviewed this year and last year, we do find people that just want to sub at Perry, which is nice.
Good.
I do ask them, hey, if you want other districts, that, you know, you need to be at the ESC, but quite a few of them want just Perry,
And
and
this
so
is the
we
only district in the country.
scoop them up. Unless they have a background check.
Be creative, change the calendar, 4-day weeks.
Plus
I'm all right with
utilities.
that.
As
Yeah,
long
plus
as
I love it.
utility costs.
I'll go year round and do that.
Basically going year round. aren't we? So,
It's an active place, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, the standing items, does anyone have, I'll just, instead of going one at a time, does anybody have any of these meetings or committees that they're on?
We'll go
When
through
I
those
have to
today.
apologize, my office needs
Capital
to get
conference.
ours out.
fine.
We haven't gotten our dates out, so we
It's still
will.
early in the year.
Yeah.
Okay, could be.
I think you're busy.
We gotta do rooms, so. OSBA, everybody.
Yep.
So you're not going, everybody else I got a yes from.
Safety meeting, it's something like coming in. Safety meeting. Other than that, there hasn't been any other meetings, committees I'm on. The only other-
21st.
what's that? But, Yeah,
EAC's Monday, we pushed it to 12. Supervisory Council week, we're gonna,
District safety week starting next week.
yes,
all the drills.
Yes.
and then we have Officer Patty coming in, we'll put out a communique tomorrow or Thursday to the community. Officer Patty did such a nice job with teachers, will be presenting to the high school on September 12th from 8 to 9:30. And on September 13th, from 8 to 9:30, we'll be presenting to the middle school. So we've got to move our lockdown a little bit to accommodate the middle school assembly there. And we were unsure whether fifth graders were going to be invited to that, right? I think Officer Patty would advocate they there.
I think Wednesday, Thursday communications are probably better than Fridays.
Yeah, tomorrow
For
or
sure,
at the latest
because
Thursday,
people
we'll put it
don't
out.
look, I don't think on Friday, especially when there's no doubt. So that's good to get that out. The only thing I was recommending out of my committee was the fall festival,
Coming up.
coming up this weekend. So make sure to continue to share that information out to the public.
Mr. Kellogg,
Come along.
you're on that.
He's on the
committee.
committee.
Are
Thank
you
you,
in
Alan.
the dunking booth or anything?
No.
Nothing but-
Say, Jack, I signed you up.
Good luck with that.
I know.
So that's coming, that's big. Hopefully there's nice weather.
Doesn't the president sit on that every year?
Excuse me, I'm running a big event this year, so
Yeah,
I got a lot going
I volunteered to go in a dunk booth last year, but they didn't want one, so I'll go in it.
I'm picking up cakes at Dairy Queen, taking them to the event, running the cake decorating thing. I'm one of the judges. I'm bringing knives, forks, plates, napkins,
Some people-
and getting that organized and then,
Nice.
yeah, donate it to the auction. So I'm good. I'm in it. I'll be there.
And fireworks at night.
Then fireworks that night. Stretch it out.
No, I got nothing.
Motion to
I
adjourn.
will motion.
Second.
Bing,
Wow.
bing.
Oh, now you all talk.
Last in, first out.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Vote no. Mr. Whiting?
Yeah.
Mr. Roberts?
I suppose.
Mrs. Chester?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?